I fail almost every day. When you're an entrepreneur, you're failing. I'm failing constantly. How do I deal with it? By not giving a shit what you think about my failures. Your failures are your failures. The reason everyone struggles with failures is because you actually worry about someone's opinion of your failures. If I lose, I'm playing. You think I care about somebody sitting in the stands watching me play, saying you stink? You stink, you're sitting. I'm playing. I fail all the time. The key is to make them micro failures, not macro failures. See, people don't have that definition down. I micro fail. If I macro failed, I'd be out of business, I would have a job. That's macro failing. I don't macro fail, I don't take those kind of risks, I'm too smart. But micro failing, every day. I hire someone every day that ends up stinking. We have a pitch, we don't win. I post something that should have been great and it didn't. Like, I'm losing all the time. The key for everyone here to get more comfortable with losing is realizing they're valuing people in the stands, judging them on the court. You're playing. You really care what somebody else is telling you about how you're raising your child? Get out of here. As if they don't suck at parenting too. By the way, this is the whole thing right now in America. We're obsessed with telling everybody everything about everything they're doing wrong without realizing how much we're doing wrong. We are in judgment city. We are in finger pointing city. I deal with losing very easy. I just don't care what anybody thinks about my losing. Definitely not people I don't know, and not even my own parents. I want to make them proud. I love them with all my heart. I have no intent of losing, but if you're living, you're losing. And we have to get a lot more comfortable with losing. So much of the depression and anxiety of the youth today is not because of social media, it's because we as parents demonized losing. They're scared to lose. And we have to start cheering for losing. Losing's just part of the game. AI is gonna eat up everything. If you leave, there's a lot of mental things we talked about here. As a practical thing, every person here, actually I'm gonna assume a lot of this crowd has not gone into AI yet. It's new, and I'm generalizing. But by show of hands, how many people here have not played with an AI app or an AI website yet, like really done AI work? Raise your hands if you haven't yet. That's what I figured, so thank you. Please, because a lot of the hands will remember this, you not doing stuff with AI is just like the thing you made fun of your parents for not doing with the internet. This is the internet 1992, it's that big, it's not going away, and it will make your life so much better. When you're in the kitchen saying, hey Alexa, can you order me food for 2 friends, one's lactose intolerant, order now, boom, and that saves you 18 minutes of going to the website or calling or being on your Seamless app or Uber Eats. This is gonna make your life better. Like everything, of course there'll be some things that aren't good. But there aren't some things that are good about everything. Nothing has been, like alcohol has some bad things, right? A car, like everything has bad and good. Please don't do to AI what you've done to everything else. It's gonna be a part of our lives, so it's gonna affect, brother, it's gonna affect everything. When I say everything, everything. So the quicker you get used to it, like the better your life will be. Period, end of story.
Who's your inspiration? Who's your hero?
Thank you, brother. So I've always answered this question the same, and I've just recently figured out how to add to it. So historically, it's always been my parents. They came to this country at 22 years old. I lived in a studio apartment the size of a third of this stage with 7, 8 family members. Like, it was rough. They worked every minute. I watched my mom raise 3 kids solo, doing everything for us. Like, my dad used to wake up before I saw him and got home after I went to sleep, just worked. So there's nobody even within their realm. However, I will say this, brother. Lately I've realized there is a certain other thing that inspires me to no end. So I live in Manhattan, and I take a lot of flights because I travel a lot, and a lot of those flights are day trips. So I actually take a lot, especially in the last 10 years, a lot of 6 a.m. flights. So if you take a 6 a.m. flight, you're kind of leaving the apartment at like 4:30, right? And there's something that's just so obvious to me. When I'm leaving at 4:30, like today would have been a perfect day, when it's like dark and gloomy. And you know, I live in a city and we're going to Newark or JFK or LaGuardia, so I'm driving through the city usually to get to one of the airports. And you know, it's like 4:30 and like you just woke up, and even though I'd like to close my eyes in the car, I'm up. So like, I'm just kind of like looking out the window. This is the scene that I just always, you kind of wipe off the, right? And I'm looking out the window. These humans, this is what gets me to gratitude. The amount of people I see, I'll just paint you the picture. That 52-year-old woman that I see coming out of the subway at 4:55 a.m. with 2 bags in her hand. And I start making up scenarios, brother. I'm like, man, she just lost her husband. I'm serious, this is what I do. This is back to mental training. What I'm training there is gratitude, right? This woman's, it's 4:55 in the morning. She's got 2 bags carrying shit. I'm like, she might have lost her husband recently. She has 3 kids to take care of. This is her 2nd job now. She's doing 6 to 9 before she goes into, you know what I mean? And it's just like, that person, the people out there that grin, like bite their tongue and just put their head down to provide financially and emotionally for their family with all sorts of adversity and don't complain. That person, bro, for me is number 1. No Elon, no Tom, definitely not Tom fucking Brady. No, no like Oprah. No people that are on the gram or TikTok, not me, not those people, like the people that nobody talks about, that are the same way the military and the services and the police, foundational, that get overlooked. These people, these millions of people who just grin it. Everyone right now is thinking about a person like that they know of or was important to their life. The people whose shoulders we stand on in our families, not just in our world. And so I'm so inspired by them, People, when you're young, you're like trying to achieve, you got ambitions, you're looking up to things. One of the reasons I put out the content I put out, my man, is because for all the conversations about Rolexes and Lambos, and like, those are just facades. So many of the people that have 10 million followers on these platforms, I know them. They're not happy like that. They're not content like that. That's the makeup. The people that are just really putting it out there and doing the right things for the people they love at their inconvenience, that inspires me to no end, my man. I'm not impressed that I am good at making money. That was a God-given gift. I'm impressed that I'm nice to people. Please stop fighting technology. Technology is undefeated against your opinions. I understand you have an opinion about AI. Good news. AI doesn't care what your opinion is, Ron. Watch this. I need people to be honest. Lying is the devil. By show of hands, and raise it high, because usually people like to do this on this question. By show of hands, who in here was this person? You had a BlackBerry and you loved it because it had all the buttons and everything. And when the iPhone came out, you said, I'm never getting an iPhone. It doesn't even have the buttons. My BlackBerry is good. And now you have an iPhone. Raise your hand. Hi. Those hands. And by the way, this is a pretty OG crowd. I could go one generation back. There were people rolling around the world in the mid-90s with a beeper who said, I'm never getting a cell phone. My beeper's more than, I don't need people to call me anytime they want. Let them beep me and I'll call them back. And the amount of people in this room that said they would never be on social media, and now they spend all their time on Facebook arguing with people. Humans are horrible at this. People said they wouldn't get the car. People said they wouldn't buy a television because the radio was perfect. People will always demonize tomorrow because of fear. Humans are scared. And unfortunately, other humans figure that out and weaponize it against us. And I'm not talking about governments, though they're very good at it. I'm talking about school. I'm talking about school telling you that if you get D's and F's, you're gonna be a loser. Meanwhile, does anybody realize how broken school is in 2023? Does anybody have children here from K to 12? Raise your hands. You know how bad it is, right? We're literally telling kids to memorize stuff and regurgitate it when they have literally the answers on their phone. These kids are chat GPTing the answer to writing papers in 1 minute. And I'm like, good. And school's like, bad. For what? School has broken us. I'm being dead serious on this. And I'm not trying to be mad at school. And don't get confused. I believe that education is the most important thing in the world. I just think it should be relevant to the world we actually live in. And asking our children to spend 12 years of their lives memorizing stuff and then re-spitting it out every 3 months is the most asinine thing I've ever seen in a world of the internet exists with the answers to the question on their phone at all times. These kids are disenchanted because they're smart, not the reverse. So that's just that. The amount of friends that I tried to have joined Uber, Facebook, Snap, trying to think what else, Venmo, TikTok, Musically, who all didn't deploy entrepreneurial spirit, even though they were corporate animals, and they stayed put at the Yahoos or Googles or Facebook instead of going to, it happens all the time, right? Like taking risk is scary for a lot of people. Here's a trick for a lot of you. I know this is not super cool, but like saving money kind of allows you to take some risks. Like I knew 3 or 4 friends who left tens of millions of dollars in stock options on hot companies because they couldn't leave Viacom to go to Facebook because they didn't save any money and they couldn't take the pay cut. And they also were living too bougie. So like they literally lost out on $40 million because they wanted a Mercedes instead of a fucking Toyota.
Go follow your passion, but a lot of us are here because we haven't found it yet.
Let's stay on this and then I'll answer your question. I think the reason a lot of people haven't found their passion is because they don't think they can make money in their passion, and so they don't admit that it's their passion. Like every one of you has a pretty good sense of the shit you're into. Let's play this game with you. Like, what do you like? Sports, music, like food, like art, like rap? I don't fuck. Like, what do you like?
I guess I just love the idea of just like talking, speaking, public speaking. What you do basically, and
so then the first job you should do is intern or work for as little as you can afford to for someone who does the thing you want to do.
Yeah, actually, just on that, I did apply to 3 VaynerMedia internships this summer, and I did get an interview back, but they ghosted me after. So no.
Let's talk about this for a second. I say this to a lot of kids that get into VaynerMedia that don't get ghosted, and I apologize for that. If you want to be a public speaker, you may need to work at Vayner Speakers or work on my team with my content, because Vayner is detached from me. Meaning I'm the active CEO and you'll see me there every day and I'm in it, but you're not going to become a public speaker or in that culture by being in analytics or creative or strategy at Vayner. So I think you need to reframe the request directly to me, which you can email me at Gary@VaynerMedia, and the other 80 people or 40 people that look like me that you're interested in, and try to get as close to the sun that of what you're interested in. But like, I love that you went there, right? Because it's not logical of like, I want to be a public speaker to be like, oh, I got to go work like right next to Seth Godin or right next to Sarah Blakely or right next to Jesse Itzler. That's something to think about for all of you in this room. If basketball is your favorite thing ever, like you really need to think about being in the business of basketball. Now, that doesn't mean being an intern for the Jazz. It may mean that whatever the most emerging, House of Highlights 5 years ago, being the junior person on that team. So I think you fight for it in your 20s. I think people know their passion, brother. I really do think they know it. They don't know the logical move of how to make their career about it. Even you had it pretty pegged, but you still went to the company form instead of the human form, which is what would be required for you to really get the osmosis that you're looking for. And that's what I would tell. For a lot of people here, I'll give you a big one. This is actually being that we're in LA, something that Hollywood figured out. The whole mail room and be an assistant thing that like William Morris and CA did was right. When I look at like all my admins, what they were able to do, like for a lot of people, and this is the answer for the whole class. Like if you want to be a music mogul, like you need to be Scooter Braun's admin. Like you know what I mean? You need to be like Ryan Seacrest's admin. Like you want to you need to get as close to the underbelly of the people that are doing the thing. And I think like one of the great misses is that people literally go to business school and like more education in their like early to mid 20s, when I genuinely think becoming the admin of the human you want to be in a 3-year window will get you there faster. If you are confused that if you're sitting in this classroom right at this second, that you are in the very small percentage of most lucky humans on earth, if you do not have the context of what the 8 billion people on earth are doing, that there is almost 1 billion people on this earth that don't have access to clean water. Like if you do not understand and have a relationship with gratitude, you have no shot of ever being happy. It is the singular skill that is a variable. When you're thankful for what you have, instead of being envious for what you don't have, it just makes you unstoppable. And it is no question one of the reasons that everything has worked in the way that it has for me and the people that I watch and admire and look up at close and founders I'm close to. And it's so easy. It's so easy to get caught because your sibling, quote unquote, has it better, because your neighbor has it better, because your roommate at this school has it better. Like it's so easy for you to see what other people have that's better, when in reality, you are sitting in fucking outer space of like luxury. You're in fucking luxury land. You're in fucking entrepreneur class at USC. Like you're sitting in such rarefied air. I just wish you really internalized it. I really do. Like all these foofy things like gratitude and kindness and empathy. Like I get that everyone's foofy about it. I'm very aware of the culture that we all live in. I understand of like the gender war on TikTok. I understand everything. This is what I do for a living. I promise you, these soft skills in a world of wait till AI comes and eats up a ton more of the IQ and the tangible and the black and white. We're only going to be left with gray. And these gray skills are going to be the differentiation for you to get what you want, period. This is really interesting, and I'm gonna say this slow because I get worried because sometimes this screws people up and actually makes them upset with themselves. This is very subtle. I'm gonna go. Accountability. If somehow you can get into a place in your mind where you realize everything you're unhappy about right this second is 100% your fault, without you then judging and beating yourself up and thinking you suck and having insecurity. Let me say it again. If you can wake up tomorrow, and whether you're upset in your marriage, if you're disappointed with your child, if you're not happy with your career, if you don't have enough money, like whatever it is, if you can go 100% into accountability, you will be stunned how quickly your life will turn around. The trick that I'm trying to figure out how to communicate better is what I've noticed when I've been on this rant for a decade of like everything that you're upset about is 100% your fault. I didn't realize how many people were so deeply insecure that path puts them into a place where they're beating themselves up. The reason the world right now is pointing so many fingers is because everyone's judging themselves. You want to really get going? Give yourself a break. Love yourself a little bit more. Be a little bit nicer to yourself. There's not a human in this room that hasn't made a ton of mistakes. We have so demonized a misstep or a loss. Back to eighth place trophies exist because we didn't want our kids to cry when they lost. The only reason I'm standing here is I cried after I lost my entire childhood. We have to be nicer to ourselves. But I'm telling you right now, if you can get out of the finger pointing business and get into the thumbs business, your life will be dramatically better. Like dramatically, because here's the problem. The reason everyone's on angst, the reason everyone's so challenged is because when you point fingers, you've just admitted that you're not in control. Period. That accountability is such a powerful drug, and it is something we have lost our way with. We just have. We need to get there. You can't tell me anything. You can come up here and fully explain why it's not working, and I can look you dead in the face right here with your current job, and I could say, quit. You could. You are in control. Unlike where I and my parents were born, you're born in a place where you can quit and you can change your career. You can move. You can do anything. And the second you start understanding that truth is the second everything opens up. Another thing I've been thinking a ton about, which is how do you balance these traits that were in the book? How do you balance confidence with humility? Really hard, similar to what I just talked about, which is like be fully accountable, but don't beat yourself up. Another thing to think about is the power of humility. There's a lot of people in here winning and rising. Unfortunately, as people win and rise, they sometimes get a little high on their own supply. They get a little bit frothy and think they're a little special. They start to lose, you like that one? There's some people feeling it out there. I like how some people are looking at each other. There's such a danger in losing your relationship with humility. There's such a danger. I'm a very public figure. I have tens and tens and tens of millions of followers across social media. Every time I post, I get unlimited people that leave a comment of a goat emoji, that I'm the greatest of all time. I also have many people that say, you suck, you're a charlatan, who do you think you are? Every post. A lot of my friends who've gone through this journey with me, other people who've got a lot of awareness out there, many people quit along the way. They can't deal with the negative comments. Many of you don't post anymore because you just don't want to deal with negativity. Many of you have not started posting about some of your interest. The Devils who play my Rangers in this playoff series, I caught that logo, you know. Many of you have not even started your journey because you're scared of the judgment. One of the reasons that I can continue to do what I do publicly is because every time someone says nice things to me, I can't hear them. Every goat emoji I get does not register. What's important about that is if you can't hear them cheering, you can't hear them booing. Too many of us, right in this room right now, in our personal and professional lives, are doing things and acting predominantly based on the opinions of others. The amount of human beings that are living life today worrying about the opinions of people that they don't even like is devastating. And by the way, those people that you don't like aren't anonymous people in the comments. They're your coworkers, they're your siblings, they're your parents. You know, it's hard. It's the truth. The reality is this though, I think a lot about this every day. You were not born for a long time, and you're gonna be dead forever. The moments we have here are small. One thing I would recommend everyone in this room to do as an action is to spend a lot more time with 80 to 100-year-olds that are not your family members. If anyone here can find the luxury of maybe living close to a retirement home and providing some service to it, maybe you have a neighbor. For me, given how busy I am, I usually do it when I'm traveling. If I get lucky enough to sit with somebody, or at the gate at the airport, if I find a good 90-year-old that looks like Yoda, I'll roll up on him, start just talking. The thing all of you would realize if you, I mean, this is really important. Back to like, people love talking about like living a fulfilled life, service, this and that. There's so many little things we can do. Like, if you close your eyes right now and think about, do I have a neighbor 80 to 100, 75 to 100 next door? The answer is many do. Like, just doing something nice, like bringing something over, flowers, cake, you know, stuff that we used to do, you know, but you're doing it for selfish reasons. Yeah, you're being selfless and doing something kind, and I promise you, and I think this will land with a lot of people, boy, does an 83-year-old that's living by themselves in an apartment complex really appreciate someone coming over, ringing the doorbell and saying what's up, and giving them, you know, some flowers or a cake or something. But you're not being selfless. You're being selfless and selfish. What you're looking to do is build that relationship. Because let me promise you one thing. If you start spending your time with somebody that's actually lived life, 85, 87, and is not carrying the baggage because they want to actually like razz your mother or tell you what your dad's doing wrong. You know, that grandparent life is a little different. There's baggage there. You need a neutral, third-party 86-year-old in your life. You're gonna learn something real powerful that I'd like to talk about right now, which is I live my life every day completely based on what I've learned from them, which is the following. When you are 90, you rarely talk about what you did. You always talk about what you didn't do. If you are lucky enough, and if one of you get inspired to spend just a little time, 6 hours, 10 hours this year, with a 75 to 90-year-old that you don't know, and you listen, and you talk, what she or he will talk about is what they didn't do. I should have married Ricky Thompson. I wish, and this is a big one, I wish I did something different in my career. You know, the thing that impacted me as a workaholic and someone who's really ambitious, I wish I spent more time with my kids. That hit me hard. When I started doing this in my 30s, 40s, that was like, I'm like, that's the one, that's my danger. That's my danger. And it shifted me. It shifted me. So I ask all of you, whether you're a youngster, whether you're in the first quarter or entering the fourth quarter or anywhere in between, it's never too late to get better. It's never too late to fight for more happiness, ever. It's never a bad idea. I watch so many of my friends at 50, 60, just wrapping it up. They're like, Gary, all the stuff you talk about, I'm done. I'm like, done what? You're gonna live to 90. You're 56. You're gonna live another 40 years. You're done? Should never be done. Should never be done to not regret. You should never be done to be happier.
Does social then become underpriced because it feels like a very cluttered space?
Because I think that they're not spending it well.
Okay. So it's not whether you're putting your money there, it's how you are maximizing it, optimizing it.
Do you know what the scariest sentence I face every day being the CEO of this agency? Hey Gary, good news, we now spend 60% of our money on digital.
Why is that the scariest?
Because I know it's old digital. I know it's bad social.
Okay.
They take it from here. Good news, we're 71% digital. But that's like me saying, good news, I play basketball. It doesn't mean that I'm a professional basketball player. And so you're absolutely right. Where even in the things they get right, they often get it wrong. I'll explain. I think especially in Asia, this is a strength of Asia, very much dictated by the influence of China. KOL work here, there's a bigger commitment to it. I would argue that Southeast Asia, Asia in general, has a better understanding of KOL work than Africa, than EMEA, than the Middle East even, and even than America. The problem is underpriced attention. Too many brands rush after the same influencers and then they become overpriced.
True.
So, you know, I think that, I think you're right, they are allocating more, but again, remember this. When they allocate more, a lot of times they talk about the media, not the creative. So that's number one. Number two, most of the way that traditional media agencies are buying social media for their clients is based on reach and frequency, which is not the way to buy social. So they may be allocating more money to Meta or Instagram or TikTok, but if they're just running for impressions at the lowest cost and not combining the creative against it and not trying to win on relevance at scale against many different consumer segmentations, they've used a fork as a knife.
So what is to say that influencers are not going to become the next creatives? You know, just bypass the creative agency and go direct.
Because the influencers are too smart.
Please expand.
Why would you want to have clients when you can just do one-offs? I started an influencer agency in 2014 called Grape Story. You can Google it. We've done it for over a decade. We're 10 years into this. I don't see Logan Paul running to work at AKQA.
Fair.
That's why.
Okay.
But by the way, they deserve a bigger part of the allocation. And by the way, my argument is that creative agencies should get less money. My argument is media agencies should get less money because it's overpriced. And so that's why influencers are getting, if brands were capable of making great social media creative, they wouldn't outsource it to influencers, they would do it themselves. Why rent when you can own? Creative agencies aren't capable of it yet. They will be. It's how I built my dad's business. It's how I grew up being a marketer. We had a small family business. We didn't have a lot of money. And I needed to grow it. And it wasn't gonna be happening by overpaying for distribution and creative. It was gonna be the reverse. At the level that we now play at as a global company, I'm really humbled that you're deciding to focus on this, because I think you're right. Underpriced attention really means modern comms planning. It means you allocate your media to places that the media is a good value in return for what you get. It also means that you have to drive down the cost of creative in filling that distribution. It can all, right? If you take the most expensive thing, a Super Bowl, you could pay less for talent, you could pay less for production, but the media is still gonna cost you $7 million. I actually think it's underpriced attention.
I know, I was gonna ask you that.
So we'll get to that later. Outside of things like the Super Bowl, outside of things like a proper football team's jersey logo, outside of that, outside of influencers, the predominant scaled underpriced attention in the world is based on biddable platforms. But not programmatic, because that eliminates the consumer behavior of consuming it. It's done on social. Because in social, what is unique for now, and it's not as good as it was 10 years ago, but it's still better than the alternatives, people are consuming a lot more of the content in social. Of course, today we go faster through the ads in our feed than 10 years ago, but we're still seeing it. It's different. So much of advertising is interruptive. With social, it's kind of there with it. It's not like you're being interrupted. It's also, and if it's
done right.
If it's done right, you don't even realize it sometimes. Which is, when a commercial is done right, you don't think you were still watching your show. When a print ad is done right in a magazine, you don't think you're still reading the article. When an ad in social is done right, you think you're still consuming social. That is a profound insight. We have become a very major player in media because we're very good at planning and executing social media buying. Social media buying is completely zero until people start putting money into it. Just like Google AdWords, right? In Asia, we do not have the same dynamic that we have in the US, where we have very well-funded venture capital backed startups that only live on underpriced attention. So all the startup ecosystem that becomes the Warby Parkers, that becomes the Allbirds, that becomes the brands that we all hear that are new, including things like Tesla and other things, like a lot of them are built on modern communication platforms, right? So in America, there's a huge underpriced attention opportunity based on modern comms planning, which really means buy biddable stuff, which really means social, though we're starting to see more connective TV and streaming opportunities. But in Asia, you don't have the same level of competition. So who's winning in Asia are KOLs, more so than even startups. If big brands in Asia started to get serious about allocating more money to social media dollars to the platforms, they would find an incredible arbitrage. The problem is, there are no meaningful creative agencies that know how to make creative for the ads. And so we have this really interesting juxtaposition in the ad world where first you have to believe it or to know it's true. And then second, even if everybody agreed with me when they read this, they don't know where to turn for the creative. Because creative agencies are not built for this. They're built for above the line. And so I think that's why we've been able to make so much noise in the marketplace. We are built for both those things. It's still early for us, but common sense is starting to become a bigger part of the conversation. And I think people really feeling the effects of it. And I think underpriced attention or modern comms planning, if you talk about it more professionally, is gonna become a bigger and bigger topic.
There are so many brands who are now starting up and they don't know what exactly to spend on.
Social.
Going down this road.
Social.
Yeah, but social is so cluttered as well.
So what are you gonna do, waste money? Okay, so social's cluttered, what are you gonna do? A television commercial? A radio spot? Direct mail? All that stuff's more expensive. Even in the competitive landscape, you still get, and I would actually argue, and this is, to be frank, we got very fortunate. The TikTokification of all of social media has really helped our thesis. Because now, you're right, it is cluttered. And the reason I'm going here is I say to myself, man, if we had this exchange 4 years ago, there's a really powerful argument for you to say, look, it takes a lot of money and time and energy to get 1 million fans on a platform, right? Most brands can't even get 1 million followers. And then as we all know, 4 years ago, if you had 1 million, you get 200,000 impressions, 80,000 impressions, whatever. Today, your first post on TikTok, you could have 0 followers and you can get 100,000. Facebook, back to underpriced attention, this is what we really do well. Right now for Asia, here's a free one for everyone reading. Facebook Reels are incredibly underpriced. But who's thinking about Facebook Reels? You know, everybody in traditional agencies barely actually care about social, they'll check the box. And then social cool agencies, they don't want to do Facebook Reels. So, you know, there's these incredible arbitrages of distribution. And then once you recognize them, understanding that a video or picture has to be different on Facebook Reels than Instagram Reels, different than a TikTok, because the temperament's different, the consumer's different, the product's slightly different. That's a level of complexity that people have not signed up for. I would argue one of the biggest reasons social has not been taken serious enough by the best creative agencies in the world is because it's too hard. Not because it's completely like, I don't think it's cool. It's because it's harder. It's a lot easier to come up with a tagline and make a video and put on TV.